In this lesson, we discussed light filters. Light filters are shaders that can modify lights based on different factors. We have 4 different light filters in Arnold for Cinema 4D: barn door, gobo, light blocker, and light decay. The way these filters work is you create the filter from your material manager. So create menu, Arnold light filters. You can see our 4 light filters here. After you create a light filter, you can select your light under Detail tab. Here you can assign your filters to the light by adding it to this light filters list. The scene we have is the same scene from the spotlight lesson. I also have an atmosphere volume. If I go to my render setting under environment, you can see we have an atmosphere volume set up in the scene. So we have some atmospheric effect. One quick note before going through the filters is the fact that you can't assign all the filters to every light type. For example, a barn door filter would never work with a distant light. So keep that in mind. If a filter didn't work with your light, that is because they are just not compatible. The first light filter I want to talk about is the barn door. So let's create a barn door filter. Select the spotlight. Go to the Detail tab and assign the barn door filters to the light filters list, and let's run the IPR. Now let's open up the barn door filter here. Using barn door, you can control the shape of the light beam. You have 4 barn door flops: top, bottom, left, and right. Each one has 3 parameters. The first 2 adjust the position of the flops, and the third one controls the softness of the edge. Now, as we have our IPR running, let's adjust the top right and the top left. And as I do so, you can see how we are basically changing the circular shape of our spotlight. And by adjusting the top edge parameter, we can soften the edges. We have the same set of parameters for bottom, left, and right. So let's adjust this and maybe create something. So maybe something like this. So as you can see, using the barn door filter, you can shape your light the way you want. The next filter type is gobo. First of all, let's delete the barn door filter and go to the Create menu, Arnold light filters, and add a gobo filter. Like barn door filter, this filter can exclusively be applied to spotlights. Gobo is a physical stencil which placed in front of the light and used to control the shape of the emitted light in real world, and it does the same thing in Arnold. Let me show you how it works. Select the light and go to the Detail tab and assign the gobo filter. The first thing to do is to define the slide map. In order to do that, let's open the network editor for our gobo filter. On the left side, search for the image node, or you can actually just press Ctrl and Tab in your work area and search for image. And let's load this window black and white image here and connect it to the slide map of our gobo filter. Now if you take a look at the IPR, you can see we basically projected that image through that spotlight. Up here we have the filter mode. You can use different modes to combine the light output and the image you have defined for your gobo. By default it's on blend. You also have replace, add, sub, and mix. And there is the density. By increasing it, you are letting less light to go through the gobo and making the overall effect darker. Then we have offset, which allows you to offset the direction of the slide map. So let me, for example, increase my Y value to about 0.3, and as you can see, the map is moving to the right. We got the rotation, which allows you to rotate the map. We have scale S and T, which you can use to have smaller or bigger texture or have more or less repetition. As I increase this value, you can see the change. And as I increase this value, you can see the texture is occupying a very small portion of the light, and that is because our wrap mode up here on S and T which control how a 2D texture is repeated, is set to clamp. If I change the mode to periodic for both of them, and now the texture should repeat itself just right. We also have black, clamp, mirror, and file modes. You can read about these modes in the Arnold website. Now let's make it a bit more interesting, maybe by increasing the spotlight exposure a bit, and also the density of the atmosphere volume. Now, as it is more obvious now, the gobo is actually affecting the atmosphere volume and produces this nice render. Now you can try different slide maps for the gobo and see how it kind of interacts with the atmosphere volume effect. Now let me delete the gobo filter from this shader list and discuss the next filter, which is light blocker. So let's go to the create menu, Arnold light filters, and create a light blocker and add it to our light filter list of our spotlight. Also, you can assign this filter to area lights as well. It's very simple, and basically blocker blocks lights in a certain area that you want. Let's open the filter and increase its density to about 1, and maybe change the geometry to sphere. So as you can see, now we have this virtual sphere inside which the light will be blocked. And let me just get out of the camera so you can actually see the effect a bit better. I can actually change this sphere to box, and you have a bunch of other options, or you can simply check this use geometry option. It's a very handy option, and as soon as I do that, we get this new light blocker geo object, basically, where you can define the shape of the blocker filter and move it around in the scene and block the light effect wherever you want. Obviously, you can use the coordinate tab to make it smaller or bigger. Now let me delete the light blocker filter from the list. Finally, we have light decay filter. Lights in Arnold, as you know, use physically based correct fall off. Light decay allows you to adjust the light's fall off. So let me create a light decay filter and use it as our light filter. Let me get out of the camera and move it a bit so we can see the whole thing and the whole scene a bit better. Also open up the light decay filter. You have two sets of parameters, near attenuation and far attenuation. Using near attenuation, you can define where the light fades in and how, and using far attenuation, you can define where the light fades out and how. Let me enable my near attenuation, and the first one is the near start, the distance at which the light begins to fade in. Near end is the distance at which the light reaches its full value. Let's put the near start to something like 130 centimeters. So 130 centimeters from the light source, the light starts to fade in. And let's put the near end to 150 maybe. So 150 centimeters from the light source, the light has reached its full intensity. Now let me enable my far attenuation, and by doing so we have a black render because our far start and end are set to 0. So the light is fading out immediately. So let me put my far start to something like 190 centimeters and my far end to 200 centimeters. So basically 190 centimeters from the light source, the light starts to fade out, and 200 centimeters from the light source, the light has faded out completely. So those were the light filters, and I will see you in the next lesson to talk about physical sky.